meeting to order. Our first item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first item on the agenda is an appointment. Chief Smith has two different items that he's going to present to us. You want to start with the grant?
Sure, why not? I got it. So, do you have copies of the grant?
Yeah, we do.
So what I'm asking is for the board to accept the grant amount of, what is standard set?
Doesn't matter.
The grant limitation is $4,995, but actually we are receiving, we would receive, let me give you the amount here in a second.
$24.97.50.
$24.97.50, thank you. And that is 50% of the cost for a replacement cruiser camera in the event that we do have to replace one, which I submitted this in July of last year. Highway Safety is going through a lot of changes. They moved over to Department of Safety. So we're just barely getting it back, and we have a cruiser camera that actually is failing right now, so we might need to replace one. So let's cover half the cost of that.
Do you have any questions regarding the grant?
Just one question. So you make the purchase and then you get reimbursed quarterly after you?
We get reimbursed 100% of it, or 50% of it at once,
Right
not
up front.
quarterly.
So it's not dependent on those quarterly reports that you have to?
No, that has to do with, for example, you approved DWI saturation control. Those get reimbursed quarterly.
Motion questions? Yeah. Do I have a motion?
A motion to accept the grant? Second.
Second. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
And Andrew, I'll get with you and we can do the proper signatures and
Chief, just one other question. So how many cruises have a video?
four.
Four?
Four patrol cars.
4 out of 6?
4 out of 5. Yes.
What's the normal lifespan of one of these? Is there an average number of years of work?
It's hard to tell. The one that's giving us a lot of problems is only a few years old, and we're not happy with the manufacturer not giving us the technical support they should be giving. So most likely we'll be changing to a different company called WatchGuard.
Thank you.
The second thing on the agenda is the opening of the cruiser bids. These are for the cruiser that we have to auction off. This would have been done earlier, but we had a vehicle that was totaled, so we used this car and put the bids out a while ago, and we had to cancel one of our meetings. We've had several of these companies call to see if they actually won the bid. So I think we have 8 or 9 that need to be opened, and we had 3 that were returned to us, normal people that we send the request out to. These are the ones that need to be opened. And that's for a 2007 Charger.
So can I divide these up between?
You can do whatever you want, Mr. Chairman. They just need to be opened publicly, and then you decide who gets the award.
Thank you.
Or actually has to pay us some money.
Yeah, we're receiving.
We're
money here.
receiving
We're not.
the monies.
No, we'll take a look at these and then compare them and then announce.
Yes, sir.
So these can come from individuals or businesses?
That's correct. I think there is one Littleton address in there, but the rest of them are from out of state or out of town.
have my bid. Okay. So I've got my high bid. Which one is your high bid? That's higher than my high bid, and that's higher than Skylar's high bid. So the high bid to buy the car is, you want to read it off?
From Bay Ridge Motors Inc. for $1,889. Staten Island.
So with your permission, if they decline, we'll just go down the line
Go down the line.
as far as monetary amount from highest to lowest.
Yep. Thank you. This doesn't mean you get a raise in pay because you picked up.
And if anybody's curious, these monies go to the general fund, not to the police department, and certainly we get more at auction than we would if we tried to trade the vehicle in for a new vehicle.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. I'll take those. Thank you.
Oh, do you know what you would have been offered had it gone for trade-in?
Usually around $500.
Okay, so that's quite a bit
Yeah.
difference.
Yep.
Okay, do you want to go to your town manager's report and do the River District presentation?
Sure. Yeah.
Gordy, are you here?
Yes.
You want to be part of this
Um,
or no?
oh, back from the backyard. I'm sure.
Oh, it's not why he's here, okay. All right.
So really, this is just an update on the River District and the project, some of the other projects, infrastructure projects that are also affiliated in Article 3 this year, just to kind of keep the board and public, informed about some of the ongoing processes. So these are some of the projects: Transportation's Alternative Program, intersection improvement for Meadow, Saranac, and Bridge Street. Bridge Street Multimodal Bridge Project, the Rail to Trail Program, also known as the Rail Abandonment. There's stormwater and sewer infiltration grant projects that are awarded and underway, and also Cottage Street Safety Review and the Tree Heart Project. So intersection improvements, in December of 2015, we met with the New Hampshire Department of Transportation and reviewed the realignment project. This is looking at a proposal to realign where Saranac Street will, instead of intersecting with Meadow Street, would intersect with Bridge Street. The New Hampshire DOT State Highway Aid, we submitted an application for review. They've indicated that they could give us up to $200,000 for actual construction costs, and they're still have an ongoing review process with that. Transportation Alternatives and Safe Routes to School program. This is on there because if you look in Article 3, it also deals with some of these areas. We had the plans had to be amended to accommodate New Hampshire Department of Transportation ADA requirements this past fall and winter. We submitted our right-of-way property evaluation and research. We completed that in January. Submitted the easement request to negotiate to the DOT in February, and we're hoping to get the project ready out to bid in March. The Bridge Street Bridge. This is the grant project through the Northern Forest Initiative. The easements for the project area, we obtained those in fall of last year. We selected a fabrication contractor in fall of 2015 and applied for a New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services shoreline protection permit and wetlands permit, both submitted in October in 2015. We were approved our EPA shoreline protection permit. This is for work that'll be done to the abutments and in the river around the abutments. That was approved in December, and our wetlands permit was just approved this month. The New Hampshire Division of Historic Archaeological, they required that we do an archaeological review of the area, and that was completed and approved earlier this month. Big R is the contractor who's fabricating the bridge. We did a final plan review with the engineer, and the fabrication process is now begun. And right now we're having our RFP for the bridge installation and abutment work review the contract and RFP reviewed by legal. We already went through our insurance review, and now we're going through the legal review. And we hope to have the RFP published by next month at the latest. And we'll be headed for, I believe, we were looking for April or June, beginning of the construction. The Rails to Trails program, I looked up a little bit of history. I guess this, it's not a new idea. It's been around for a while. Found that there was a letter where Ray Burton actually was responding to some concerns about the surface and an expansion for the Rails to Trail to come through Littleton. And there's probably more information in some other files, but from what I found in 2011, the board voted to support an expansion of Rails to Trail and remove the rails through Littleton. The actual application to abandon the rails was submitted October of last year. The DOT sent us back for additional information that they require, and that information is now being submitted with the contractor.
Point of order. On number 3, you said this year, October.
Oh,
this
2015,
year.
I'm sorry, you're correct. Thanks,
Okay.
Dan. Yeah. 2015 of October that was submitted. And we met with some local property owners recently to look at the river walk on the south side of the river. And we've adjusted plans to include part of the river walk will actually be on the abandoned rail section for a portion on the south side of the river to meet some needs over there.
And my understanding is that the state had approved everything, and it was now with the federal.
Yeah, it's at the federal. The feds are the ones who are requesting information. They're passing it all through the state. Yeah. So sewer system grant projects, right now we have a USDA water and wastewater disposal program, pre-development planning grant. This one, we're looking at our sewer collection systems and infiltration and doing inflow analysis. We had other phases of this done in 2005 and 2010. And we, this work was, the application for this grant was submitted to the USDA in 2015, and we were awarded in October of 2015. And our Public Works Department, George McNamara, and our engineer, Dufresne Group, have been working and cameraing the sewer systems and locating some areas where we've got some problems. So the engineering is going to continue as weather allows and staff has time. We also have the Community Development Block Grant. This is to upgrade the sewer lines in the River District due to the same problems up above, infiltration and poor quality of the sewer system. That's a $500,000 grant that was awarded in November of last year, and we're working with our contractor right now to look at implementation for 2016-17. Cottage Street safety review, and again, this is one of the streets that's mentioned in the Article 3. We have a lot of sidewalk improvements have to be done there. There's also been quite a bit of development over the past few years that have changed the pedestrian traffic flow. So what we've done is we've met with the New Hampshire Department of Transportation. We're looking at what issues are there, based on populations like low-income housing, the changes to the old LRH facility, and senior housing, and looking where crosswalks and other traffic calming might be needed. And at this point, we're working on a plan that we'll submit to the DOT for review. We're also looking at, with the DOT, trying to get them to look at some of the other issues which are related to traffic and people getting off the interstate. I believe it's coming northbound. They can just get a slip lane in and everybody tends to speed. And then the Tree Heart project last year in October, we've got the license from the property owner to place the Tree Heart, and Kate Vaughn is working on that, and she has the contractor selected, and she has initial site development happening. Tree Heart's still in the bank, so it's not out there yet, but we expect this spring that should be done. That's really what I have for the River District. And I don't know if Brody has anything to add?
He's here for another reason.
No, okay.
Let me move to old business, which is a blank, and we'll move to new business, which is the final audit. But I'd like to ask Mr. and Mrs. Fraser to come up here with a petitioned article, because clearly they should have been under new business here tonight. given that this request came in some time ago.
Thanks for your time, we'll only take a minute. We're the Frasers.
I'm moving it up.
We live on Old Waterford Road and we represent Donald Butson, Barbara Clough, Mary Ann Butson, Hannah Latang, and Thomas Burke. We're just the people that are involved with that property, and this is simply a petition of protest. We urge everyone to vote no on Article 2.
Thank you much.
Well, thanks for your time.
They're doing the same.
I just want to remind everyone that at the deliberative session, we encouraged people to vote no on Article 2 for technical reasons. The article as written has a parcel identified that is not owned by the property owner that was making the recommended changes. So we encourage everyone to vote no because the article itself is in error, for lack of a better term. It should have been parcel 32 and 33, it turned out to be 23 and 33. And because it was a petitioned article, we have to put it on. There wasn't enough time to change it by going back to the original petitioners, so this was a little bit more complicated. So we do encourage people to vote no for technical reasons as well as for the reasons that are stated here tonight. Thank you. Going back to new business, we had a request to review the final audit. Oh, Karen's here. You're here. Let me just raise, this is the audit that was just finished recently for 2014. Now, as you know, 2015 just ended, so it'll be a while before we get that audit. But there were some questions that were raised or comments that were raised that I would like to repeat to you. And I went over this with Karen, and I thought for transparency reasons it's important that we go over this with people present and people watching. The audit overall was fine. They found all the money, and nothing was askew. Under this page 2, which is the last section, other audit findings or issues, second sentence down, while updating our understanding of the internal controls over the parking meter fund, it was identified that cash receipts were not deposited in a timely manner. This issue was reported to the town in the prior year, excuse me, and it has not been addressed. We recommend the parking meter fund deposits are made at least on a weekly basis. You want to speak to that, Karen?
Yep. Yeah. They are done on a weekly basis now.
Yeah.
At the time that they audited in 2013, of course, you're partway through the year, and the changes take a little bit of time to happen.
Okay.
And there was discussion with the town manager, and the town manager discussed with the police chief, and there's some steps in place now where they're being done on a weekly basis.
Okay.
We did go through a period where we had either part-time or temporary parking enforcement officer as well. So we were doing it on a monthly basis during that time frame.
Okay.
Now it is done weekly.
Okay. Second point, in review of the town policies, it was identified that the library trustees did not review and reaffirm their investment policy for the 2014 fiscal year. It is our recommendation that the library trustees review and reaffirm their investment policy annually, as the library trustees are custodians over a portion of their own trust funds.
I just sent an email to Jean to find out if they had reviewed it in 2015, because it does need to be done yearly.
Okay, so we'll bring this one back. Okay, the third one, while testing the town's capital assets, it was identified that the related policy for capital assets has not been updated since 2004. Additionally, it was identified that several fully depreciated assets included on the capital asset listing are still in use. We recommend that the town capital asset policy is reviewed and useful lives per policy are reviewed to ensure recorded useful lives reflect as accurately as possible the useful lives the town is receiving from its capital assets.
Now, for an example, the Opera House, we've had that 200 years. My depreciation schedule depreciates them in 50 years. So it was fully depreciated. We need to adjust the depreciation schedule, which I've emailed the three of you today an updated policy, and I have printed policies here if you want them. I can give you, just to review for, say, March's meeting, to go over. It has been a while since we updated this.
Okay.
We have some equipment, say in the highway department, that we've had for a very long time, fully depreciated. We've used it, or we're still using it between repairs. So those items either have to go, or they need to be stretched out a little further on their depreciation. I was depreciating it faster than we've been using it.
Okay. You want to leave those, did you put recommended policies along as well as sending them to us?
She sent it to us.
I sent them to you, but I'll leave you the printed
Okay.
copy,
Good, thank you.
so you each have them.
The last item, Karen, is in testing of the town's trust funds, it was identified that investment fees are being taken from the principal balance from the trust accounts reported as permanent trust funds. As defined by GASB statement number 34, permanent trust fund account for resources that cannot be expended but must be held in perpetuity. Generally, these resources are investments, and the government may spend the earnings often for a purpose specified by the provider of the resources. We recommend that the town trustees communicate with the bank to ensure that investment fees are not taken from the principal balance of the permanent trust funds.
Now, this is where I communicated to the trustees back in June about this. I sent them the findings and the information, and they responded with an email that where they had talked with the, I have it here, the New Hampshire.
Karen, you want me to respond to that one?
Yes, that would be great, please.
Are you a trustee?
Yes.
Ed was a trustee at that
Trustee at the
time.
time.
So is that.
Sometimes, and
Oh my
Skylar
God,
as well.
it's surrounded by trustees here.
We sometimes take exception to statements that auditors make. Going back to depreciation, there's absolutely nothing unusual about equipment being used beyond its useful life as you have in the depreciation statement. Two, in trustee of the trust funds, the town, first of all, the state allows fees to be allocated both to principal and income funds. It's a state law, it's allowed by state law. It was voted by the Selectmen years ago, it was voted by the town 2 years ago, because it's the fairest way to allocate the fees between the principal and interest. The accounting principles have not caught up to what fairness or what state laws allow. So we rebutted what the auditor said and said, it's the state law, we think it's more equitable, and that's what we're going to continue to do. So they continue to take exception to that allocation. So,
Can I add a little bit more?
Sure.
because it doesn't correspond with accounting principles, they have to put that in the management level. So.
And it's allowed under the RSA 31:19 through RSA 31:38. This letter came from the Department of Attorney General. So it is allowed. It's just one rule isn't matched up with the other.
So the trustees checked with the state of New Hampshire, with the Attorney General's office, and with the bank, and both assured us that it was totally equitable and correct.
Okay.
It just is not in conformance with GASB.
The accounting rules haven't caught up to the state law.
Okay, good. Thank you. In your, okay. All right. Any other new business that you're aware of? No. Then we'll go to other business, health officer appointment. Our current health officer, or our past, the health officer who was in place here 3 weeks ago has resigned. And so we have a vacancy.
And so we've advertised, and we've received 2 interested individuals. Right? And our 2 are, do you have them right here? What we've received?
Oh, not sure what that is. There you go.
So Jessica,
No.
That was her email
Oh,
address, it
okay.
actually came from us.
okay, Scott.
Yeah.
Scott Dane.
Right.
And also Milton Brants. So now the board can review the qualifications and make its recommendations to the state.
The Board of Selectmen is the health board here in town, and I applied for this position, and it is not a competing position with being a selectman, so I can be the health officer if that happens.
And if, yeah, I don't know.
So I would move we appoint Milt to be the health officer and send that to the state of New Hampshire based on his experience and resume, most especially his master's degree in public health. So I make that motion.
Second.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's been 43 years since I got my master's degree in public health. It's back when we just had horses and not cars, but I'll try to do a good job, thank you. Anyway, the state does the appointment. All we do is the recommendation. Thank you. Citizen concerns, we've already touched on Mr. and Mrs. Fraser. Brody, you're here as well, and I think Stan Philly and I know you come in to also speak to something.
So, real brief, again, my name's Brody too, and I'm here on behalf of both the LIDC and the River District tonight. And I sit on both boards, and I'm the liaison between the two regarding the Brooks property. And we just want to give you a real brief update that it is still a primary focus of both of our boards, and we are working on it. We've been in touch with the landlord and the landowner, so it's forthcoming. There is progress, but I just want to give you a brief update at this time. So if there's any questions. Great.
Well, thank you much.
Thanks.
Mr. Philly.
Just to add to that, I just want to give you a little background of what's been going on in the industrial park. Two of you are part of the industrial park. But as you know, the funding for the original industrial park, we've had about $4 million of cost entered into the development of that. And back in the 70s, there's been about $1 million from the Littleton taxpayers that went in. That was matched over the years with $2 million from the Economic Development, EDA, administration, and then about $1 million from the state and other agencies. Currently, we're in phase 4, doing a study for additional lots because we are getting fairly full in the park. We have $80,000 in funding, and $40,000 of that funding came from LIDC, the Littleton Water and Light, and some from the town. And that was matched again, $40,000 from the EDA. And we've really slowed this approach a little bit on the infrastructure for the park due to the importance of what we feel is the Article 3 in the Rivers District infrastructure improvements. Other things that have been going on in the park, we've had the expansion of Rhodabeck. They should be adding about 30 new employees in the next couple of months. And Tender has moved partially into their new facility and allowing for consolidation of that entity. So I just wanted to again express LID support for Article 3, the bond request for the River District infrastructure improvements in the amount of the $900,000. And we have a chance to leverage this into the $7.3 million total project, and understand that the bond will only proceed if we receive a 2-for-1 match. Again, this is 7 cents per thousand on the tax rate, and also about 25 cents will be coming off for some of the current expiring bonds. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on the industrial park as to how we in the past have taken some of the money that the citizens have generously given and matched that and what that has turned into from investment. So what we've previously done, and hopefully that we can take that leveraging going forward and use that on the river project.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Yes, Rudy.
I think it's time, that you gentlemen, gonna stop this comparison between the river district and the industrial park. The industrial park was built 40 years ago, 45 years ago, which is completely different the way the economy stands in today's society, okay? You guys have been making all this big deal about the industrial park and stuff. It's your obligation as the office of the town to not make this comparison and stop it completely. And also, another thing, you guys should inform the citizens of Littleton that we don't have $900,000. The $900,000 we gotta go borrow to the bank. It's gonna cost, it's 15 years loan that I don't know how much it's gonna cost. Okay, it's really, I think you guys should be obligated about that. Regardless that I go around and tell everybody, but it's you guys' job this over here. Everybody comes over here and makes such a big thing about, the river district, the comparison between the river district and the industrial park. This thing has got to stop because it's not right for the citizens in Littleton. You guys confuse the citizens in Littleton. We don't have the $900,000. We don't have the money. It's it. We gotta go to the bank and borrow the $900,000 to match the $900,000, and like that, the river district can do whatever they gotta do. Please, Mr. Chairman, do something about it because, eventually if this thing, is gonna hit, the fence, something is gonna happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments regarding what's going on here tonight or other topics you may have? Yes, sir.
We got another topic.
Yeah. If it's town related, I mean.
Yes, yes. I was noticing the difference between two sections of Mansell Road and the way they are taken care of in the wintertime. Both sections, I haven't gone out there and measured the slope to find out what it is, but they appear to be very close. One is the steep section of Mansell Road as you're going out of town, and the other is after you, or just before you come to that real tight turn. It's more than 90 degrees, but the length of the two sections are pretty much the same. But I always notice the first section where the houses are right along the road, almost clear of snow. The other section, it's actually, I'm going to call it one section, but it's in two directions. Mm-hmm. They cover it, they plow it, and they cover it with ash or sand. But even with that covering, I've never slipped on the way up. But going down, and I usually go into low gear coming down the closed section or going down the other one, but going down, I've actually skid on that past section because it's still got snow or ice on it, even though it's got a covering. They'll put a covering on it, but they're both at about the same slope. They're both about the same distance and length, but they're treated differently, and I don't think they should be.
The second half of the hill?
Up by Moose Landry's.
It's Rodney Hopkins owns that piece of property there where that real more than 90-degree turn takes place.
Way out back, as you head down towards Dalton, about a quarter mile.
Yeah.
Oh, down, okay.
Going down the other
Oh,
way.
you're way down, okay.
And mentioning Dalton, an interesting thing. One day I was going out the back way, and as soon as I hit the Dalton line, the streets were dry. They were clear. It was like our streets weren't, but Dalton was. I thought that was interesting.
All right, so George is taking note of that, and thank you for your input.
Do you want to reply?
If you'd like to do that, please do.
The part out back actually has a north-facing slope, and it's not treated with salt. That's the reason it would be like that. The side, as we look at what we call the face of Mansell, is a southern-facing slope, and the sun, Mother Nature, helps us out, and that's treated with salt. Okay. That's why the two difference. The reason we treat one and not the other is the number of people it affects that live in the town of Littleton.
Okay. All right, good, thank you. I wanted to just point out something about the agenda. You'll notice under citizen concerns and comments, we have a new line there. It says board action. We've agreed as a board, and one night I was corrected in wanting to do this early, but we won't take any board votes during the meeting until we get down to the bottom of the agenda, so that if there's comments coming from the floor regarding something that we're going to vote on, that's when we'll do it. So that's what board action means. The seal recommended that, and so from this point going forward, that'll always be on the agenda, and that will be kind of a reminder to us to not vote on anything until people have been able to comment. Okay, we're going into non-public on a personnel issue. Yes, sir.
Do you want to respond to Rudy's all about having to go to the bank?
No, I'm fine with that. Does anybody want to respond to Rudy's comment? No, I understand. Okay. We are going to go into non-public under 91A, small a. If I could get that, and then we'll take a short break.
And it had to do with what?